Thank you very much for coming out. I want to congratulate we the parents. I know how hard they've been working, and I know how many people they're engaging with, and I know what this means to them. And I think every one of us are here because we know what it means to them. I'm going to talk about a couple of things tonight when it comes to opioids, a little bit about fentanyl, and some areas I think we should be focusing some attention on. I don't expect you to agree with everything I say. In fact, I'll be disappointed if you agree. For Cape Breton. I'll be disappointed if you agree with everything I say, but I do want you to at least listen so we can try and figure out the areas we agree on. So, just so we're real clear, our young people aren't out buying fentanyl. They're not out there looking to buy fentanyl. What's happening is fentanyl is being put in every single opioid that's being sold. It's being cut now with stimulants. We've had 2 cases in Canada where it's been sprayed onto marijuana. So our challenge is that what our young people are hearing from us is don't buy fentanyl, don't use fentanyl. They're not doing that. What they're doing is buying something else that's been cut with fentanyl. Now, many people have asked me, why would drug dealers and drug manufacturers try to kill their clients? Well, they're not trying to kill their clients. 1 kilo of fentanyl costs about $3,500 to make if you can order the ingredients from China, which you can. 1 kilo. You can make 20 kilos of pills. 20 kilos of pills worth millions of dollars with 1 kilo of fentanyl. There's never been a drug in the history of this world that has had the markup and the amount of money you can make as fentanyl. That's why it's being done. No other reason. I mean, a kilo of cocaine, to give you a perspective, a kilo of cocaine at 90% pure, which is extraordinary, might get stepped on or mixed 3 times to get 3, maybe 4 kilos of cocaine out of them. They might make a couple of $100 grand off it. They're making millions of dollars off a kilo of fentanyl, and the ingredients are primarily coming from China, just so we're clear. So that's what's happening. So your kid who, in the past, some kid who bought a Percocet that some other kid stole from their parents' medicine cabinet, is now out there buying a Percocet, which isn't a Percocet, or Dilaudid that isn't a Dilaudid, or an Oxy 80 that isn't an Oxy 80. And as we all know, the guys who are making it are standing in the basement. If we saw the Edmonton case, 2 cement mixers making Oxy 80s, right? I mean, we're not talking about pharmacological geniuses in the basement that are mixing this up. They're standing there with a mask on, and they're mixing it the best they can. They're adding a bonding agent, they're running it through a pill press, punching out tens of thousands of pills, and they're selling them on the streets to kids. That's what's happening. Just so we're real clear. So educating your kids about not only what they should and shouldn't do in life, which used to be pretty easy when I was a kid growing up in Cape Breton, I didn't listen. It's not just about that. Now it's educating young people about what's going on out there, about what the reality is, about the fact that they have a real good chance they're going to die. A real good chance. So just so we're clear on that issue. The second issue is supervised consumption sites are not going to save everyone's life. In fact, the vast majority of people who are going to die in this country, and there will be thousands, are not injectors. They're using pills. The vast majority are not injectables. The second part to that, though, is if you're going to have a supervised consumption site, don't let them use street drugs in those facilities. Provide them with opioid replacement therapy. You realize today, well, at Sandy Hill, when they allow, they still won't be able to offer everybody methadone. They still won't be able to, because they don't have doctors on site. It's a place to go in and shoot up. If they die, we give them naloxone. By the way, they're buying it off organized criminals who are actually making it and selling it to drug dealers who are selling it to them, and most of the addicts are committing crimes to actually get the money to buy the drugs. There is a better way, and I don't support supervised consumption sites, but they've been approved. So if they're going to have them, find a replacement therapy program. Do not allow this to be a place where we have people dying and bringing them back to life. And by the way, at the facility in Vancouver, and I've been going there for almost a decade, the vast majority of addicts do not use that facility, and those who do use it less than 12% of the time. The reason is because they have to go commit crimes to buy drugs from criminal organizations. They shoot it up, often sharing it with somebody else because they didn't have enough money for one hit, so they're sharing it. the Wendy Muckle from Inner City Health actually has figured this out. They're not going to allow them to actually shoot up illegal drugs in the facility. They're going to provide them with opioid replacement therapy. Methadone is an opioid, by the way, just in case you're wondering. So that's the second issue. It is not going to save, we're going to have thousands of dead bodies. I don't care if they have a supervised consumption site every 100 feet. We're going to have thousands of dead bodies because the vast majority are not injected. The next thing is we keep talking about how we're going to combat this issue. And we do talk about how we're going to deal with it on the streets. And look, when I was the police chief, we had a street crime unit that laid tens of thousands of charges against thousands of dealers trying to clean up a few of the areas that I love, Lower Town, Vanier, Centerton, right? So we have to do that. I absolutely agree we have to target China when it comes to them selling and shipping into this country, but the choke point is not China or Ottawa. The choke point has to do with border services and customs. And if a company is shipping illegal ingredients into this country, which they can do every day, every single day, then they should not be allowed to trade with this country. We need to do something to stop them from shipping ingredients to this country. Last spring, I gave a speech in the Senate about the ingredients, and while speaking for 18 minutes, I ordered every ingredient on my iPad. And if somebody had given me their Visa number, I could have ordered it and brought it in. I mean, that's the challenge we have, is that even though today they can't legally buy those ingredients, you can go on the dark web or other websites, and you can actually still buy the ingredients for fentanyl. I just told you, if you can make 1 kilo, you can make millions of dollars. Of course it's coming. And most of the young people who are buying those pills don't have a clue what's in it, any more than I would know if I went and bought a beer at the local beer store and they said, yeah, it's beer, okay, thanks. They do not know what's in these pills. The last piece, I think we do need new legislation that targets those who are manufacturing, distributing, and selling fentanyl. And if they're going to not care about taking away the life of a young person, we have to not care about taking their freedom away from them. So I believe finally, and I've never thought that we should treat look, I've always been dealing cocaine, heroin, other drugs, you should be treated more harshly than marijuana, and you are. I truly believe now if you're trafficking in fentanyl, you don't care who you kill. And we need to treat them differently. And we need legislation.
Amen. Hear, hear.
Now, what we can do from this room is we can influence public policy. I can tell you there's politicians, and including myself, which I hate to say, there's politicians in this room from every level of government right now. We can influence public policy. And we can start telling public officials who work for us, including me, to do something about this. And we can get them to start drafting legislation to deal with each of those issues. But on top of all that, we can tell them we want more money for treatment and education for young people because they're dying. This city has right now 2 drug treatment centers, one like Francophone at Vanier, and the other out here in the West End, Dave Smith Youth Drug Treatment Center and Maison Fontaine. The only city in the country, by the way, that has that. This city has drug treatment counselors connected to every high school in the city. Thank you very much to Rita Wood, who's here tonight, and Maison Flat, and Operation Come Home, Go Home. It's whatever it is, I always get it wrong. And Wabano, every single high school in the city. The only city in the country that has that. And we still have, because I talked to a 19-year-old today, a 4-month wait list to get a teenager into residential drug treatment.
Shame.
That means a parent sleeps outside their bedroom door every night, hoping they don't crawl over them and run away. And when they do run away, they call the police, and then they go pick them up in the morning, and they try to get them back home and sober them up and dry them up long enough to get them back to school, and hope they come home that night and sleep outside the door again. And no parent ever should have to do that. So as good as we have it, it's still not enough. When you can't get residential treatment in days or even weeks, but months, that's not enough. And you know what, I'll tell you the truth. I'll be honest, it won't be my kid because I would go borrow $50,000 of the mortgage on my house and send them away to get them treatment. But not everybody can do that. The vast majority do not have the financial wherewithal to do this. And just so we're very clear, this is in every family potentially, every street, every neighborhood. It doesn't have a race, it doesn't have a religion, it doesn't have a socioeconomic, it doesn't have a hair follicle issue. It doesn't matter what family it is, it could happen in your family. So I want to tell you how much it matters that you're here tonight, because the only way we're going to change this is by everybody finding the pieces of what I just talked about and deciding it matters enough to do something about it. You don't have to do it all, but there's at least one thing in there that you thought, that's a good idea, let's do that.